Yes, hello and welcome, my students at Near East University. I've made a file here for you, and today we will be covering the Arnold rendering engine. I did make a very simple file because my computer is really old and Arnold is a very demanding render engine. So I have a very simple room here with one chair inside and a curtain and two windows. I'll try to create an interior scene just to show you how the lighting works with this kind of scenes. So first thing that we have to do, you can find this in the description or in your university webpage. First thing that you have to do, you have to create a camera. We haven't covered the camera yet, so here I go to the camera, a target camera, because I want to be able to control the target here. So just drag and drop like this. I can go to the side and you can just start moving it and changing it. Now if I change the camera, the target stays. If you want to change the entire thing, you have to pick both, maybe in one of the side views. You can do that, let's say here, or you can pick the target, change the target. You can pick the camera, change the camera, or you can pick this middle line and just move the entire thing. If you want to see how it looks from the camera's point of view, you just come to one of your viewports and you change it from this like left. Now let's say camera 1. You have all your basic setting, F3 for this. I mean, this is an interior scene, so I have to adjust the camera. This camera is not wide enough to capture, just like real world. I mean, it's difficult to get a good view from camera interior. So it's 43. 43 is not good for interior. Maybe, I don't know, 35 is a good interior focal length. So you just like, let's see what's happening here. My numlock is there. Okay, 35, and then you can just move it along, like up and down, until you find like a kind of, a scene that you like. Okay, even you can like go ahead and like try to maybe get closer to have some sort of, if you want to have if you have something special in mind, you can do it however you want. So let's say, for example, like this. Let's have it look a little bit upper. Okay, now it looks good. If you want to see what you are rendering, you can always come here to the camera and you can say, okay, show save frame, and it will show you what is actually appearing in the render. So now let's press 8 on the keyboard for now. I'm just bringing my environment up somewhere to the middle. Okay, I'm just changing this to automatic. So just as kind of, because first we start to adjust the light. Okay, now I go to my render setting and change this to Arnold. Okay, you can, if you have a good computer, there is this thing called active shed mode. You can go to active shed, and that's what I suggest actually you do if you have a good computer. You change your camera, you pick your camera, you lock it, okay, and then you press render. It will try to create a kind of a render from the scene. Sorry about that, I forgot to change this to Arnold. Since my computer is very slow, I'm picking a very low resolution for my active. The active will show you how it actually looks. And now if you look here, you see it has a kind of like a nice quality to it, but it's not what we are looking for, because it's now very dark. And when you're working with a render engine, you have to use the render engines, you have to use the render engine's material. So that's the way to go, basically. So material light and the render engines, they're going hand to hand. So I go here to the top. Let me first select everything. I've already made the glass transparent for you, just to make your job a little bit easier. I want to select everything except for the windows, so Alt down, uncheck the windows. Now let's go to material. Material, you have to go and find material, Arnold material. So you have the general here. This is where you have all the materials that previously we did talk about. But I'm not looking for the general now. I'm just opening up Arnold. Under Arnold, you have the surface. Under surface, you have standard surface. This is what you will be working with most of the time. So standard surface, you see it has lots of options here. I select the standard surface, double click on it. You see my computer can't even show the preview of this one now. So the thing that you have to do, I don't want to see any reflection in my first, we will adjust the reflection. Be very careful with the reflections. So you see it's a little bit different from your regular material. Now we are working with Arnold material, but it's all the same. So you have the basic color, like instead of diffuse color, you have basic color here. And specular is the same, so I'm decreasing the specular to 0. I've already selected everything. This is selected, so assign material, just as we do usually. Now let's go back to the to our render view, and let's render it again. I'm sorry about that. I cannot edit this for you. I have to wait for the render to, like, let's say, appear. Okay. Now that you see the reflections are now gone, but again it's still very dark. So the way to add the lighting inside, you have two different ways. First way is that you can create an HDRI lighting map, which works really fine with Arnold. The way to do that is go here. There is this very nice website, HDRI. It's called HDRIheaven.com. Okay, because usually if you search it on Google, you have to pay for this stuff. Okay, and these are very high quality and expensive images, but they provide you with very high quality 16K plus images here that you can easily download and use it. So if, for example, if you're working in an urban setting, if you're designing something in a park, if you're designing something, in a rye, or if you have a night scene, you can pick up the relevant image from here. I've already picked one, so I'm going to assign that one to my environment. So again, press 8 on the keyboard. I'm showing you the first way. This is way number 1. Environment map, general, bitmap. A professionally done HDRI has the lighting source inside the image. So you don't even have to let me go to lecture notes, 3D Max, classwork 10. Let me see this one. Okay, this is a pretty large file. Let me open this one. Okay, it will take some time to open. This is like 90 megabyte, file now. So I'm closing it. I'll go back to my renderer. I'm sorry about it being slow, because now we are working with a kind of a professional render engine that expects a very good computer. So if you have a good computer, more power to use this. I mean, if you have a very good, these are both CPU and GPU heavy render engines. So I mean, you should have both a good graphic card and a good CPU. Oh my God! You see, this is coming and going. Can't even bring it up again. Okay, I'm not using the active shed because my computer can't handle it, but use it if you have a good computer. I'm just going to production. Let me go to smaller size. Okay, let's say, make sure your scene is selected if it's not locked. And now you see, because it has a light source inside it, it starts to create this, sunlight is coming in. It's already producing the sunlight for us automatically. But to see the rest of the scene is still pretty dark. Okay, so there are many ways that we can fix that. And you can see some of this marine part outside the window. Now it starts to look really nice. So the way to fix that, you can add Arnold lights now. Or you can increase the number of the times that the program calculates the reflections. So one way to make the scene a little bit brighter is just to go to Arnold setting, and you see the diffuse. If I increase the diffuse minimum and maximum, the ray depth to the 3, if I render it now, you'll see it gets a little bit brighter. Now because it's calculating each reflection 3 times, it hits the wall, it bounces, it hits the roof, it bounces, it hits the other wall. So it's just, it calculates it like that. But that's not like very like efficient to calculate the lights. Maybe it's easier to do it another way sometimes. Because now you see, when you increase it 3 times, your render gets longer for like 3 times, you know. It's just maybe when you finished everything and you get to your like production render and you want to produce the final render, you increase this to make it a little bit more, you know, photorealistic if you want. But you see now it's just too much, even for a very small scene like this. You have to wait for like a couple of minutes. If it's a larger image, then you can guess it just increases logarithmically. So let me just bring this back down. Okay, the other way that we can do that, we can introduce Arnold light. Let's say, for example, here I want to have like the windows are here, so there is light coming in from the windows. So let's try it like that. Let me go here, not perspective. Let's go to the top, bottom, front. Yes, this one. So even not this one. Back. No. Left. Yeah, this is what I want. Okay, so you go here under the lights and you have these Arnold lights. Okay, so you create Arnold lights. It doesn't give you many options, because when you create the light, then you can go here and change the type of the light. Now this is by default is on quad, which is a kind of a surface light. This is now what I'm trying to use now. So you have to rotate it and put it like in the proper, you know, placement now. So I'm just rotating this, make sure that it's 90 degrees. So the light is coming. I'm trying to like somehow emulate the light that is coming in from this. So just let me bring it up. Make sure that you are adjusting it approximately for the window now. Alright, so now let's go ahead and like see how it affects the scene, if it does actually, because we have to adjust it somehow for it to start working properly. I mean, it's there, but now it doesn't really create any kind of source of reasonable, tangible effect for us. So I hope my computer doesn't crash. Okay, escape again. So let's pick up the light now, go to modify, and you can go down here and check the intensity and exposure. So let me make the intensity maybe 16. Let me double it. And you can change the color as well. So I'm usually putting this on daylight if it's a kind of a, you know, daylight render. So let's see if it does any. I can see the scene starts to get really, you know, nice and bright. You can do this indefinitely for some of the sources of light, because window is basically a kind of a diffuse source of light as well. I mean, if you see some noise here, because again, for the production now our sampling is at 1. If I want to go to production, I will increase this sample maybe 5 or even higher sometimes, to just get rid of as much noise as I can. Now there is another way that you can create this kind of, you know, effect, and that's what with another type of Arnold light. You can go ahead and create, but be careful. Like whenever you are creating one light, it's just let me first hide this light because I don't want to see it now. Hide this. Hide selection. Okay. Arnold light. I'm creating another Arnold light here, and this time I change it to Sky Dome. You already are familiar with the Sky Dome. Sky Dome is also a very heavy kind of light. Let's bring back to 8. Let's bring this back to 8. I think 16 is too much for that. Now let's render it, see how it looks again with the skylight. It's a little bit more intense, so you have to go ahead and just let me. I mean, this rendering is just about playing with this, you know, with these lights until you find the best, you know, possible outcome. So you play with it until you find like the best possible, you know, type of scene that you're looking for. And you see it starts to get really nice. And it's the case, and you don't think that you have to see everything white, because if you pick up a camera, put it against the window and press the shutter, it will set the exposure usually for the window. And it will have this wall which is around the window darker. Right? It is part of how the mechanic of the light works. So don't think that you have to see everything just as bright white. But now, so okay, this is one part of the problem. After I'm happy with the light, you can go ahead, like usually, like you can even add more light. You can add one light to the roof. I have a very light light to the roof, and just a quad light that just shines down and have your objects a little bit more, lit, let's say. That's another way to go. If you don't like to see the picture behind this, or you want to have your outside the window completely white, there is another type of light here. So when you create the light, here there is this thing called the distance. So the distance is just basically sun. You create a distance light. These are all parallel beams. They're coming from so far away. So you just rotate the light and it will emulate the sun. So that's something that you can do. Usually I'm using that. I mean, HDRI is very nice because it creates, more realistic reflections on the objects that are actually reflecting stuff. But other than that, you can go ahead and just use the distant light here. Now that I'm happy with the lighting, let's say, I'll go ahead and just try to fix the materials, because now it's not a very good, it's not very good to have this scene with only white. If that's the look that you are going for, by all means go ahead. But let me show you how you can use this render engine to your benefit. So I press material again. So this one, please give it a name. I'm trying to create a fast video here. So like, for example, if this is my general, if I general white, I call it general white. So just type something that when you look at it, because this will get really busy if you have a scene with maybe 60, 70 different materials, it really gets confusing sometimes. So I'm creating another one here. Now, let's say I want to have a metal here for this, this metallic part of this chair. So let me first assign it so I don't forget. Let's double click. It's assigned. Double click on it. Make sure that it's outlined with the dashed line. Now you increase the metalness. So let's me bring it up to 1. If it's a dark metal, change the color to if you want to have a kind of a dark metal, change the base color to something darker. Okay, it's all about the type of metal. You can find presets online. If you're using, just go type Arnold material presets. Okay, and if you can find it in Autodesk web page as well. Let me show you. Arnold material presets. Okay, they have this material library. You can download this. And you don't have to create if you want to use copper, if you want to use something else, you don't have to create everything from scratch. They already provide you with a very good, starting point for your material. So you have this, for example, you see some of these, you have to spend maybe half an hour to just create one of these, but they're already here. So you have your glass, you have your chrome, you have your brush metal, you have your, paint, ceramic, and the way to do that, you download it from here if you want to add it. It's very difficult. Some people have very difficult time finding how to import it. If you drag and drop it, usually it doesn't work. So you have to click on this small triangle here at the right, left corner. You open it up and you say, okay, add a new material library. And then you find that file that you downloaded and you add it from here. Now let's go ahead. I already did this metal. I assigned it here. Let's go ahead here and just render it, see how it looks. If it looks metallic, it does look metallic now. It has very nice reflection. If you have some colors in the scene, which we don't yet, it will start to show as if it's a kind of a very, you know, nice piece of metal. Let me go ahead, let me go closer and say, so usually the thing is I'm not making this from scratch anymore, because it doesn't really worth the effort by with all this, you know, with all the things that are already available in the scene. So decrease the roughness even, I'm decreasing the roughness even more. So F9, render, and you can see it's a pretty nice metal now. It has all the, it's a shiny metal, it's something like a chrome now. I'm not letting it finish because it will take forever to just render each of these one by one. Now, okay, let's say I'm happy with the black metal that I have here. Okay, let's say I want to add this one as a kind of, you know, ladder or something. So let me go ahead and pick these two. Material again. So give this a name. If you don't want to see this, decrease it. Another surface material. Let me keep this one here. Let me go ahead and see if I've already done something. I think I prepared something now. 3D Max. Yes, in Classwork 10, I think I already downloaded. Okay, black leather texture. You can go find it online, search for seamless texture. So again, the way to do that, you assign it to the base color and you assign it to diffuse roughness. Diffuse roughness is basically the same as we were talking about, like bump map in the regular. And you decrease the specular lower, maybe very, very lower. Leather still has some, you know, it still has some, you know, specular, but it's not really that much. I'm increasing the roughness to something maybe 0.8 now, and I'm having some specular for it as well. So let's have it shown in the scene first of all, and then let's assign it. And you go ahead and you use your UVW map just to make sure that it's on the proper size. Okay, box. Let's go for 100, 100, 100. Let's see how it looks. Still too big, so let's go 10, 10, 10. Okay, 10 looks good, but maybe it's a bit too small because I want to see something in the render. So let's go 33 times bigger. And you can find a better looking material as well. So I just try to do it really quickly. Okay, let's have it like this. Now let's go to material. Let's add something else for the curtain. You can download a good fabric. Okay, this is also usually something I do. But now let's just, oh no, not that one. Be very careful what you're picking, because now I'm just editing the previous material. It's sometimes really I think I made a mistake here. Okay, I changed the metal. Okay, let me fix that. Specular 1, 0.01, even to 5. Okay, make sure this is for the, so specular 0.2, roughness 0.8, 0.3 even. Okay, now it's okay. So for the curtain, make sure that it's outlined with the dash. It doesn't have any reflection, so I bring it down. You can add a kind of anything that you want here. Okay, let's say, okay, base color. Let's go for something that we have a color in the scene as well. Maybe not really that red, maybe something orangish. Let's give it, because usually materials in real life, they're not really pure, you know, color. So they have a little bit of, you know, dark in them. Okay, this is here. just like people. All right. So let me go ahead. I have a kind of something here outside. Let me pick this material, this handrails as well, and let me assign it to the metal that we already created. Let's say these are also metallic. The next thing I want to do is just have a kind of, one more material. Just please name this. I'm just repeating this. I'm doing a very lousy job here because I'm trying to save the viewers of the video for watching like hours of nonsense, which is already kind of, Okay, let me go to my post-production folder. Let me go to my create a post-production folder for yourself. So I have a lot of textures here for different occasions if I want to create something. Oh, I already put it separately in a file here. Why did I? Because if you have a dedicated folder, if you change computer, you can just copy the dedicated folder. Now, if it's on the desktop, if I change my computer, if I do something else, it will just be really a disaster. You don't do that. You have a dedicated file for your materials, please. So I just double click on this again. Specular color, let's go for 0.3. It's a ground, so it has some. It's not really that shiny, so let's go for 0.5. Pick the ground, pick this one, show the material, do it, select it, make sure the scale is okay. UVW map. Let me go ahead and have it. Maybe 60 will do. 150. Okay, now we have our scene basically, let's say, ready. So I go again to this camera view. Let me pick my render setting again here. And we will wait together this time. So I'm increasing this for 3.2. I'm going to common. Let's have something so you can see how it looks now. 600 at 240. It's okay. Now let's see how it looks. It will take some time to render. And you see it starts to shape up, and some of these renders that you see online, like on the projects, okay, how they're doing this. It's really easy. It's just all about light and material, and just spend some time. And this scene is now very like abstract scene. If you have a little bit more, if you have some like a table, few books, add some imperfection, because realistic render is not actually about being perfect. It's about imperfections. Add more imperfections. Add some, like, I don't know, dust on the wall or crack on beside the window or something like that. That's all that there is to it. So you just wait. If I increase the bound sampling of the light, the noise will go. But then the time for the render will just increase maybe twice, 3 times, 4 times. So it's just about like timing it properly. If you don't like the dark in the corners, you can add another light from the back of the room, because it's just another level of reflection. Sometimes we have to calculate this and put them inside manually to and to have an answer for that kind of light. Now you see it starts to shape up, and now I have a very good render with the Arnold Render engine. And you can go ahead and play with the lights, play with the material, Arnold material, and you see that we created this very nice leather texture. Now we created a very nice metallic frame for this, those kind of things. Okay, yeah, my baby girl came into the room. She's here. I was waiting for the render to finish, and now you see it's just it's a very kind of a beautiful kind of render. If you can rotate the HDRI if there is, because these are big pictures. If there is part of it that you want to see that particular part, you have to rotate it. The way to rotate it is just to go to the material. You go here, scroll down, find it, it will show here. My computer is so slow that it can't show. Like, okay, this is this one. So you bring it here. Just double click on it. It will come here. Select it. And here you have this option of rotating. So you can rotate it in any axis that you want. And it will change the lighting inside the scene as well when you rotate it. All right. So let me just in case let me add another light and see how it looks. Basically, let me right click and say okay, unhide all. Let's render, see if it's look any better. Okay, we have to increase the sampling. I'm not going to do that because it will take forever to render now. This one, unhide all. I thought that I had I had something for the window, which is not actually the opposite of what I want. So the light is coming like this, so we will have something shiny indoor like this. So let's see if it makes any difference if we have that light there. Maybe a little bit, like some of the shininess will appear again. So I can already see if it has my desired effect in this view or not. Exposure, maybe 1.5. The intensity is much more stronger than the exposure. Exposure is basically working with how the camera renders the light. Okay, now it starts to look even better with the additional light. Let me stop this and wait. Yeah, so I've been waiting for this render to finish. I increased the size a little bit. I mean, you see, it now looks pretty good. But again, I have to go increase the sampling for the lights to get rid of the noise, basically. You can find like higher quality texture for the ground, even for the wall, those kind of things. And rendering like interior scenes just about spending time putting like trying to perfect the material and the lighting sequences and those kind of things. Usually it's like you can do some of these in Lumion, but when you do it in like those graphic card like base engine, you cannot have this beautiful kind of reflection in the element. So that's why people still like use this kind of say calculation CPU based render engines. Thank you very much. So for my students, I will give you the empty scene. I'm expecting you to add material, and I'm expecting you to go to HDRI Heaven, download one of these. If you don't want to see the background, just use a distant Arnold light. But this looks fine. I'll put the link to this particular scene that I'm using here also in the description down below. Please submit it because this session is being recorded on a holiday session. It will have like extra points. Thank you very much, and I'll see you next week.